Sports have woven themselves into the very fabric of Las Vegas, creating an electrifying synergy with the city's gaming and entertainment scene. But this isn't just about the thrill of the game, it's a booming industry that's reshaping the business landscape. And who better to break it all down than my guest, Alan Snel? He's mastermind behind lvsportsbiz.com, and he delivers insider coverage on the high stakes world of Vegas sports business, where every play is more than just a game, it's big business. So for everything about LV Sports Biz, go to lvsportsbiz.com, and you can follow Alan on X at LV Sports Biz. And Alan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Ira, it's great to be here.
Thank you. It's always great to have you on to talk about the world of sports. And I wanted to quote a current headline from lvsportsbiz.com. It said legal settlement between Las Vegas businesses and F1 Clark County, quote, not impossible, unquote, according to new Las Vegas Grand Prix president. And you talk with Emily Prazer. She's the new president of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Given your coverage, I thought it was quite impressive that she gave you an interview. She was conciliatory and she talked a lot about the whole issue of how things went the first year.
Well, we had a really great interview. I enjoyed meeting Emily, and I thought she was as candid as someone can be in her position. She's the new official president of Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix. Obviously, the first year was highly controversial in 2023. A lot of disruptions to business and transportation. Year two, it was improved, but still, there were businesses that alleged that they lost literally tens of thousands of dollars in revenue, and those claims are contained in four different lawsuits. And getting to your point and the headline about the potential settlement, that's always a possibility. And keep in mind that Formula One was not the only plaintiff involved. Clark County was involved as well. And you might be aware that Clark County did settle a very high profile controversial lawsuit by the roads development folks for a project they had near Red Rock Canyon. And settlement seems to be the the strategy being deployed by Clark County. They in wanting to settle with roads about the land use deal near Red Rock, they cited the city of Las Vegas and its Badlands settlement. So, I reported in the story that Clark County Commissioner Jim Gibson has asked staff to look into a potential settlement talk and negotiation. So, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
I know you mentioned the last time you were on that you are not automatically going to publish figures or plans that various entities put out there in terms of the economic impact on Las Vegas and Clark County, unless you sat down with someone from the organization and went through it. Are you planning to do that with Formula One?
Well, if I can get more validated information, I will. Um, I'll throw out these numbers only because the F1 did use these numbers for year one. It's already been reported. They threw out a number for $1.5 billion. They also threw out a number for year two, which was around $930 million. And I'm kind of very careful about reporting those numbers because I explained to them that they're not verified numbers. And I did a very extensive story talking to academic economists who explain that they might be generating this kind of spending, but the problem is that this quote unquote economic impact is not the same as an economic net gain to a community, which means you have to factor in and be honest with the numbers, all the losses, and then you come out to a net gain number that I think is more of an accurate quote unquote impact than just rolling out a general spending number. The economists explain that there are many, many factors that go into determining the net bottom line of an event. and that means going into the losses. It also means that there were people who would ordinarily be coming to Las Vegas that weekend who did not come. So how do you figure those numbers in? A very difficult number to figure out, Ira, is all the, gosh, there were so many workers who changed their schedules to accommodate really, difficult traffic situations. They spent an hour earlier in the day trying to get to work, and it took an hour later than usual to get home. How do you characterize the losses of income when you have workers losing time? I mean but these are kind of nuanced economic questions that are sometimes difficult, but just adding up the numbers that people spend and just saying, voila, here's the big number. The economists just have a problem with that, and that's what I reported.
Where did the term economic impact come from? Was it used on a regular basis to sell a
Yeah,
product?
it's a general term that I think the sport promoters use. Typically, they hire a local person. In this case, Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix hired a really popular local consultant. His name is Jeremy Aguero, very popular guy. He also works for the LVCVA, which is a partner with F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix. And he also comes up with numbers about the A's potential impact in Las Vegas. And he appeared before the state legislature in 2023, making an argument on behalf of the A's to get public funding to help build their stadium on the Strip. So he's he has worked for the Raiders. He's a former Raiders executive, and he was the consultant to the Las Vegas Stadium Board. He did step down when he worked for the A's as a consultant because the A's were appearing before the Stadium Board. But, this is a person who one may argue that is probably in not the most impartial or neutral position to be providing these economic numbers. And Ira, the reason these numbers are so crucial is that the county commissioners can be persuaded to approve, permits and approvals for the F1 because they perceive that somehow there's this big economic benefit to the community. I think the bottom line, Ira, is that the economists just say that the number realistically is inaccurately too high in the local market.
Do you think that that's going to change based on your own reporting of that economic impact
Well,
statement?
it's kind of funny, well, one of the things I talked to Emily about, the new president, was, you know, why did they decide to hire Jeremy when he has a reputation for being, kind of a, unofficial booster, really, for the sports developments going on. He worked for the Raiders. He is a consultant for the A's, and Emily told me that, well, when we came to town, these are the key people we need to, you know, contact. And it was, we got to contact the county commissioners and Steve Hill and Jeremy Aguero. I mean, that's what, those are the main players. If you want to get a sports event or sports stadium realized, you got to schmooze it up with the county commissioners, Steve Hill, Jeremy Aguero. That's the bottom line. It was interesting, as you know, specifically because you used to work at the Tropicana, you're well aware that it's in Clark County, not the city of Las Vegas. So, when people say you need county commissioners' endorsements and approvals and you need them to greenlight your project, it's even though everything is the brand is Las Vegas, the jurisdiction of governance is actually at the Clark County level.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people confuse that. Some of our listeners and viewers from around the world that are listening to you, as long as we explain that difference, that Las Vegas is the brand, but the jurisdiction is the county.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. when you talked to her, she also admitted that they made mistakes on that first year or in that first year in terms of some of their approach. I guess there was a lack of lead time to really connect with the locals and to establish a relationship with them.
Yeah, I thought that was a really important thing that Emily did was that she wasn't defensive. She just acknowledged that there was just not a lot of time to pull off that first event. And I think there are many people out there who would argue that maybe the first event should not have been held in 2023. What if you took your time and did all the outreach and community programs you did for year two? What if you had the first event in 2024? And also, if you could maybe spread out some of the repaving and the road preparation you have to do for a race of this scope. Keep in mind that the first year it was, if you recall, it was literally just daily mayhem on the strip and in the strip corridor. I mean, it was more than just installing race course equipment, such as, concrete barriers and fencing and light mounts. They literally they had to repave the course 3.8 miles. It wasn't just Las Vegas Boulevard, it was Koval and it was Harmon and it was Sands. They had to do that not once but twice. If you were able to spread that across before you had a race, maybe the impacts would be less and maybe less, there would be less aggravation, on the local front.
And I
But
think
the important point is, like you said, Ira. I mean, I thought she struck a very reconciliatory tone,
mhm.
and she acknowledged that, yeah, we probably needed more time to pull this off, and that, there's no secret that there's a lot of people out there who said, getting this race done by 2023 and rushing it might not be the greatest thing, and it turned out not to be it turned out to be quite a headache for the local community.
I think you're right, and also the fact that she owned up to it. It's a simple law of public relations, which instead of fighting something and appear to be arrogant or obstinate, you just say, you know what, we goofed, and we're going to go forward and fix it.
Yeah.
And then you
Well,
get the sting out of it at that point.
I mean, the business, Ira, as you know. I think that's a great way to disarm someone or, just basically take the sting out of a relationship is just to acknowledge that mistakes were made. And I think it's a good strategy by them because, you're probably aware that the commissioners have to approve another 7-year extension after the 3 years, because there is a period of 10 years with the first three guaranteed. And the Clark County commissioners do have to decide whether they want to extend it beyond the 3-year threshold. So, I think trying to, own up to the mistakes made and acknowledging that there were issues and acknowledging they could have done things better, I think is a really good PR move. I mean, you're in the business. What do you think about that?
I do, and I think you phrased it a certain way, which is actually different from the way she phrased it. A lot of people think that if they just say mistakes were made, it sounds like they're apologizing, but it's in the passive voice. She actually said we made mistakes, and she took ownership of it, and that takes the sting out of it, as opposed to mistakes were made, well, by who? And
Yeah, I mean, I think that, they acknowledged all that. So,
yeah, no, it's great. Well, looking ahead to other
yeah,
races.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was going to say that they have kind of an interesting event next week. I believe on Saturday, a week from Saturday, the final Saturday in March, they are launching a new um, Grand Prix Plaza karting operation where, it's kind of a go-kart kind of operation where the public will be involved. And again, that's like, I think, a really good move. Try to get people to the site and get them involved because right now, during the race, you need a ticket to get into that pit building, that paddock building that's built at Koval and Harmon. And by having this business open up 20, have it open up year round. And also they did a smart, so the tickets are cheaper for year three. They realized, I think, in year one, the prices were really too high. So in year three, in 2025, I think it's November 20th to the 22nd, the prices will be, I mean, it's still, I mean, to the average person, it's more than a minor league baseball game, in Summerlin, but it's less than what they were charging in previous years.
The other thing you talked about, and I recommend everybody go to your website and read the full interview, lvsportsbiz.com, is that she was talking about, and you asked her about the investment that they made in that paddock, and that it's a substantial amount without the assurance or guarantee that the county is going to extend the agreement beyond a certain amount of years.
Yeah, that's correct. And she just said, it's a risk. I mean, I asked her, why would you build a $500 million paddock pit building when you're not assured of it past 3 years? And, she mentioned, well, there's always risk involved. So,
So what happens
um,
when they don't use it? Does it become
I
Home
mean,
Depot or who knows
they
what?
are kind of using it, I think, for corporate social activities. The one thing to keep in mind, and this could be a good segue into the A's stadium
Yeah, I want to talk to you
activity,
about that.
but just keep in mind that the Raiders and the A's, their stadiums receive public subsidies. I mean, the one thing about both the Formula One, along with T-Mobile Arena, Ira, is that these are buildings that were not built with any public subsidies. So, although the race, you could argue, I mean, we can kind of go down this road, no pun intended, and that is, um, Clark County did hand over 3.8 miles of public roads
Yeah,
for
prime
free.
public roads. Prime public
Exactly.
roads. Yeah.
Those are our public roads. They could have cut a negotiated deal where they were paid by F1 counters that we pave, these roads to the tune of $40 million, and we're not going to fight to get any of that money repaid. So, they said they invested $40 million into a public right of way, which is, those roads. But, the bottom line is, there were not, and although, keep in mind, the LVCVA, the Public Tourism Agency, did pay for like $7 million worth of tickets, so that like potential customers could be coming to Las Vegas. So and also the LVCVA had a contract for in-kind services worth $19.5 million for the initial 3-year deal. That wasn't LVCVA writing a check, but those were 19.5 million. Most of it was in-kind services.
Mhm.
So anyway, you can bat this stuff back and forth. But I think F1 came away looking pretty good, especially after year one, where the ticket prices were among the highest on their circuit. In terms of ticket
Sure.
prices, they did lower it a little for year two, but I think F1 did just fine, along with a few of the major hotels on the circuit, such as Bellagio and Wynn, and you had Venetian and Palazzo out there by the Sphere. The circuit went around the Sphere and those hotels. So, the hotels that had that were selling tickets on the course, I think those hotels did okay. The one thing to consider is that the quote unquote economic impact was not really spread across the whole region, and I think that was kind of a concern. That's to me a legitimate concern.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. You mentioned earlier too the A's, which I want to talk to you about because
Right.
that's an interesting topic. That seems to go from left to right to all around the park to using not to use a pun there, but it just seems to be batting around. Another pun, being batted around all over the place. Where do we stand with it at this point? What do you see? Are you are you 100% sure they're coming, or are you 50% sure? Where are you? Because you have
Well,
more knowledge than most.
based on the A's track record in the Bay Area, I think it might not be the smartest thing to say 100%, but I'd say it's probably, I mean, it looks pretty good that they're going to have a groundbreaking in April, May, or June. I'm guessing it will be closer to June or even maybe July. I did ride my bicycle past the site and I took some photos, biking past the site to get, and they have removed a lot of the rubble from our beloved Tropicana buildings, and most of the site has been cleared. If you go on my lvsportsbiz.com website, you can see some of the photos I took. Um, Most of the site is cleared. There's still some rubble to be removed. I mean, based on what I saw, I don't think they can have a groundbreaking in the next few weeks. But keep in mind that the Raider Stadium, if we want to use the Raider Stadium as a, kind of a milestone, they they built Raider Stadium in about 2.5 years, about 31 months. So that's 1 month more than 2.5 years. If they break ground in June or even July and they build for 2.5 years, that would take it to January of 2028. And they want to have the stadium ready by March of 2028 and the MLB season. So you'd have about a month to spare. And, that is their game plan. The A's are in Sacramento for this year and 26 and 27. And, I plan to travel to Sacramento to see the opening series against the Cubs
Well, knowing you,
in a few
you're
weeks.
going to be taking your bicycle there. You're going to be driving.
Yeah, I'll be doing my park and bike routine. I'll find a place a little quiet street near the West Sacramento Stadium and then bike on over to the ballpark. But
Like to see a bike all the way from Las Vegas to Sacramento. It would be a great trip.
that would be a hell of a
Yeah.
ride. That
And
would be
when you go to Alan's website, lvsportsbiz.com, he's also got some great books on biking that you'll enjoy as well. Yeah, I think it'd be great that you get a chance to go up there and check it out. Did you agree with the marketing decision by the LVCVA to sponsor the patches for the players while they're up there in Sacramento?
So you're referring to the 3-year deal worth $8.25 million, and the A's jerseys will have Las Vegas on one of the sleeves, along with the Sacramento Bridge, or Sacramento will be mentioned on the other sleeve, and the Las Vegas logo will be on the other sleeve. Um, in that case, honestly, I think the LVCVA has been such a booster of the A stadium that it didn't come as a surprise to me at all. Keep in mind that Steve Hill, who is the head of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, joined forces with Jeremy Aguero and spoke before the state legislature, making the case for public resources to be in that state subsidy bill for the A Stadium. He also chairs the stadium board that is charged with reviewing the A's stadium plans. And Hill's LVCVA has the contract to supply the administrative support for the stadium board. So, when you mention, you know, what are the odds that the A's will follow through and build this thing? I just think the odds are pretty good. You have a state bill that outlines the responsibilities, but more than that, you have a person in Steve Hill who has been kind of a built-in advocate for them, and I can't imagine Steve Hill would attach his wagon and attach his reputation to a project that John Fisher, the owner of the A's, would say, "Oh, sorry, we're just going to go to another location, and sorry, we're not going to do this," like he did 5 times in the Bay Area. I just think there's a sense because of the because of the state subsidy bill and the fact that they're hitting the boxes at the proper times, it just seems as though they are going down the path, much like the Raiders Stadium. So keep in mind the same builders are building the A Stadium as the ones who built Raiders Stadium. That is McCarthy and Mortensen, two very reputable construction companies. They teamed up to build Raider Stadium, and they were also picked again by the A's to build their stadium on the Strip. The interesting, um, really quirk about the A's stadium is that Bailey's, which owned Tropicana, wants to build a hotel resort right next to the A's stadium. The A Stadium supposedly is supposed to be built on only 9 acres of the 35-acre site, and Bailey's wants to build, an upscale hotel resort next to the A Stadium. It would be connected by a pedestrian bridge, and it would be interesting from a construction logistics standpoint to be building a stadium and a resort of that scale right next to it.
Right. And then, of course, the window's getting broken by baseballs hitting it. So, hey, I only have a minute left, but I wanted to get your take on, are you positive or pessimistic about the general future of sports and sports marketing and sports teams in Las Vegas?
Well, I'm pretty bullish on it. I think, the Las Vegas market has a strong reputation as wanting to be an advocate of sports development and facility development. And our LVCVA has been, I think, very open with giving money. I mean, keep in mind that, they have given, I mean, we're talking about March Madness right now. And just last week, there were, no less than four different college conference tournaments to determine the teams that would go to the March Madness, NCAA tournament. You know, in two of those conferences, they each received $300,000 in sponsorship money from the LVCVA. So my point is that the LVCVA has been very open about sponsoring and giving money to sports promoters and event promoters, and apparently the county commissioners and even the state legislators the state legislators, they're the ones who approved the stadium financing for the Raiders in 2016 and for the A's in 2023. For those legislators, they have not suffered politically for earmarking public money to help build these, let's face it, these are Taj Mahal stadiums. I mean, the Raider Stadium is a pretty nice venue. I mean, if you've been inside there, there's a lot of club and club seating in there, and um, it's a pretty impressive place. So, in answer to your question, I'm bullish, and I think the growth will continue.
That's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Alan Snell, whose popular website, lvsportsbiz.com, reports the business side of Las Vegas's expanding sports industry. For everything about LV Sports Biz, go to lvsportsbiz.com, and you can follow Alan on X at LV Sports Biz. And Alan, thanks again for being on the show.
All right, it's always a pleasure. I enjoy talking with you.
Same here. See you next time.